decisions. These are my 8 decisions. These are my 8 decisions. The decisions for success. These are my 8 decisions.
Hello,
Hello, here we are.
Will Sachs.
Yes, Bobby Hartline.
Dude, you got a new project that you've been cooking in the kitchen. What is it?
Indeed. Yes, well, it's called Creator Circle. And very simply, it's an accountability community for artists.
Accountability. Artists don't want to be held accountable, do they?
They do. Well, everybody needs accountability. I mean, this is for artists who do want to be held accountable, because making art is hard. It's as somebody who was an entrepreneur for 15 years and is now stepping into being an artist, I would say it's harder to be an artist, because if you're building a business, I mean, business is art and art is business at the end of the day. But if you're building a business, you got to hire people, you got to build a product, you got to fire people, you got to take care of the books. All of that is pretty regimented and prescribed. Like, there's ways to do it. You can find the best ways to do it. You can read books, you can get really good at hiring, you can get really good at making a product, you can get really good at marketing, but there's no right way to make art. In terms of if you're making a painting or composing a song, there's no right way to make that song. It's an act of pure creativity and inspiration. I mean, there's processes to invite in the muse and to invite in that art, that artistic inspiration, but there's no one path. And so as an artist, when you sit down in your studio, it can be very confronting, because you're in the business of connecting to the divine and trying to channel that into something that is an expression of your version of the divine. And so it can be hard. It can be hard to sit down every day and open up Ableton, or if you're a producer, open up your music production software, sit down at your easel if you're a painter, sit down at the page if you're a writer or a poet, sit down with your camera if you're a filmmaker or a photographer. It can be hard to do that every day and produce something that at the end of the day you're proud of. And so Creator Circle is a solution for artists to give them an accountability structure so that they can rest inside of accountability to themselves, to other artists, and to our community as a whole, so that they can produce more work, produce better work, have an easier time doing it, and express themselves in a way that feels easier, more useful.
It kind of reminds me of what a lot of entrepreneurs deal with, is feeling lonely. And I would assume that's the same with an artist.
100%. Yep. Yeah, it's very lonely because it's so individual. It's such an individual thing, creating art. And so it can be very lonely. And so being part of a community of other artists who are all creating together can be a salve for that loneliness, and has been a salve for that loneliness.
And so, like, how does it work?
So it's very simple. We do a call every day at 9:30. Currently, we might move the time around, but it's a 15-minute call. And so everybody hops on this 15-minute Zoom call, and we just check in with, hey, this is a creative project I'm working on. We call them lanterns because they light the way up the mountain. Like, each creative project lights the way for the next creative project. So you talk about what you're working on in terms of the project, what you did yesterday, and what you're going to do today. Very simple. So everybody checks in for a minute. We 15 minutes total. And then at the end of the 15 minutes, we all go off and do our thing. And then we have what are called flow sessions, which are co-working sessions where people can hop on Zoom and work on their art while other people are also working on their art.
Oh, wow. Do people share what they're working on and talk about that? So what has been the outcome of getting together like that?
Yeah, well, a lot of stuff's been created. So we've had some beautiful events created. A buddy of ours, Mark Cleveland, launched his podcast. We've had a poetry book published. We've had music created. It's just, I'm not sure what that was.
This fireworks on a normal.
This is morning, really 7 a.m. fireworks. That's funny. Yeah, so we've had all this stuff created already. Right. I've been doing this for only a couple months.
It's so funny. It's funny you said that you were an entrepreneur, now like this creator, but entrepreneurship is just creation.
Partially, yeah.
And because if actually, I think a lot of people define entrepreneurship kind of incorrectly because they'll say like a business owner is an entrepreneur, but not necessarily. If they started a franchise and they just show up every day and follow the recipe, it's not the same as, man, I'm going to create something out of scratch, nothing, and put this together. And that's much like when you're creating a song, it's difficult just to put it together, especially when it's maybe stuck in your head and you're trying to get it out.
Yeah, it's like, what's coming through and what are you attuned to? It's similar to the entrepreneur journey is interesting because half of it is the pure creativity, vision, and then, well, maybe like 20% actually. And then the 80% is actual execution.
Say stuff that nobody
The
wants.
sucky stuff that nobody wants to do.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, the sucky stuff that nobody wants to do. And with art, it's similar because if you make a song, you write the song, it's an act of pure inspiration. It hits you at 3 a.m. You roll out of bed and grab your guitar and you record it and it comes out finished. Okay, great. Then you need to record it, get album art put together, put it on distribution, figure out the marketing plan. There's all the sucky stuff that nobody wants to do. It's similar in that way.
Say it's kind of the same thing, isn't
Yeah.
it? And then, do you ever find that where you get I've seen this over and over in software where I get really jazzed about a new feature I'm going to build, and the feature takes a long time to build. By the time it comes out, I've lost all my spark and inspiration. I don't even talk about it.
Right.
I don't share it with anyone, but I'm sure that would happen in, this idea of waking up in the middle of the night with a song idea and then try to get it to the other side, get it to it where it's actually, all put together. Do you fall out of love with it then too?
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah, my last album, the song that I almost didn't put it on the album. Like I was like, ugh, I just don't like this song, but I spent so much time on it and it fit with the other songs, so I put it on the album and then I played it. I've gotten feedback that people think that that's one of their favorite songs or that's the best song on the album. So, and I've heard that a lot. That
Yeah.
just because you hate it doesn't mean it's not going to touch somebody else artistically.
Yeah.
And I really like it's the feeling of getting stuff out into the world feels good because then you're actually sharing the art with people. And I have so much unfinished music, on my computer.
Yeah.
And I
to
think
get it fully flushed
a
out.
lot of artists have tons of unfinished stuff. And so on the one level, art is useful for its own sake. We make it for ourselves. It's part of our own soul journey to understand ourselves, to process our emotions, and to become better people. On the other hand, when we share it, it has the opportunity to help others do the same thing. So I think getting it out is important. If that's what you want to do, if that's part of why you're making art. And a lot of people struggle with actually getting it out.
You're reminding me what I've experienced when I've seen people create. It just makes me want to create. And it's like, you could be part of something really amazing. Your piece of art only needs to strike a tone to one individual who could build the next whatever, whether it's music or movies or whatever, in a business, you name it. It's funny how, your light that's inside of you that you're trying to bring out is going to ignite someone else.
Right.
And I think it's exciting, especially it's perfect for Nashville because, how many creators are in town? And maybe there's this feeling like really disconnected, lonely, they don't, maybe in their circle, they have a few people that are creators, but if you're trying to, keep a job and then juggle life, you may not have the time you're dedicated to the craft that you're meant to do anyways.
Totally. Yeah. And so this is just a very simple way for people to plug in every day. And we track streaks. So there's some value in showing up every day because you start to get momentum. And from the business world, momentum is everything. Like when your team is excited and accomplishing every day, it tends to just keep happening. And when things are stagnant and not working, you can stay in those stagnant periods for a long time. And I think it's the same with art. It's if you show up every day and you're at the desk doing with the instrument in your hand or the instruments in your hand or the pen or the paintbrush or the DJ controller, you start to it starts to imprint your consciousness, and you start to think about whatever it is that you're creating when you're not creating, like in the shower or when you're driving. And I've definitely noticed that when I'm working on a track and I'm in there every day, I start to have ideas about it or just everywhere. It starts to infuse my whole existence with this artistic expression that's coming through.
Yeah, it reminds me of this thing. We were both in Dan Sullivan's strategic coach program. One of the things he teaches is before you go to bed, if you got a challenge or something, to kind of, just ask the universe, God, whatever, for an answer to this mix. And I got this track and I can't figure out what is the right sound. It's the sound that it's missing the sound. I don't know what the sound is. Could you just help me find that sound tomorrow? I mean, have you ever tried?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the biggest or the most um, memorable example of that for me is the breakdown in my song Jungle Frog. There's a breakdown at the end, and I actually I was working on it every day, like I was just describing. And I went to bed, and then as I was waking up in the morning, I had this dream of the song turning itself inside out. Like I heard the song turning itself inside out and then coming back right side in. It was just this weird visual feeling in my body. And I got up and went down to my studio. I was like, this is what I need to do at the end of the song. And I created this breakdown and then build up and drop again. That is was me hearing the song turn itself inside out.
Wow.
And stuff like that happens. And I think that's why if you do it every day and you have that habit, good things are going to happen as a creative person.
I'm curious. I think if I'd ask this question to different songwriters, they'd have different answers. But do you have a theme of a song before you start writing it? Or do you have the music first? Or is this the lyrics?
It's very different for me, both. Sometimes I'll have a lyric. Sometimes I'll have a groove. Sometimes I'll just have a beat.
Right. So there's not one thing that
It's
you
not
have first.
Not for me.
Got it.
Yeah.
You say some people are different.
Yeah, I think everyone has their own process.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works for them.
Is there a documented process that people follow that in general terms is like known in the industry as a framework to produce a song that's repeatable? I mean,
That's a big question.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's people who've made hit after hit after hit after hit. So they've got a process,
Right.
for doing that. And every artist, like I was reading about Prince, his process. His process was just to always be making music.
Right. Right.
Always.
Right.
After the gig, before the gig, 4-hour sound check, on the bus, like always be making, which is pretty cool because then you're always in the conversation and
Right.
you're always thinking and feeling and you're just so attuned to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Then there was some, there's a book about different artists and how their process and daily rituals, I think is what it's called. And they're all different. Like some people do just 2 hours in the morning and then they go to their job. Some people do 2 hours in the evening before they go to bed. Some people are immersion style. I like the immersion. I like immersing myself in a project and getting it done.
You think it's easier to write something sitting by yourself with your computer or with your band?
They're going to be different. Band is more fun in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, honestly, when I sit down to create, like I have no problem making something that I like. The hard part for me is finishing it, getting the final 10% done and getting it out. That's the hard part for me.
Well, I mean, don't a lot of producers, get the concept down and then just get someone else to fill the gaps, right?
Yeah. I thought about that.
And so you could just systematize it, and so you could, produce more, I guess, where you're
Totally.
using your unique ability and not in the. I mean, I tried to pick. I've been trying to pick it back up. I used to DJ, and I'm trying to pick that stuff back up and getting the gear and stuff. And I'm like, it's the learning curve so huge.
Yeah.
Just all the technology, things have changed, and I'm trying to navigate how to pull things together, and it's daunting.
Yeah. Stick with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is daunting. Thank God for YouTube. We can
Yeah.
learn how to do anything now on YouTube. It's
And you're helping people kind of navigate that.
yeah, with Creator Circle.
Yeah, just in general, like working one-on-one clients to help them produce.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, doing production for people who have ideas or concepts for albums, and they wanna bring an album or a piece of music into the world.
Yeah,
We're doing that, which has been really fun.
yeah. And so, what does that look like for someone, like in terms of? Because I would assume there's more people that would love to do it, but maybe they're sitting on the sidelines and going, "Well, I don't know how to write music. I don't know how to sing. I don't know how to play an instrument." But when I'm in the shower, I come up with some crazy tunes with my voice, and but I don't know how to make that into a song.
Yeah. It's so interesting, that question, because I was dealing with this last night with a client in the studio. It's like, and Quincy Jones said this in the documentary about him. He said that, being a music producer is you're in the business of capturing magic moments. You want to, with that person, I'd almost want to go and get a microphone and get it in the shower somehow, and just let them
Get them in the moment.
get them in the moment, because that's the magic, is when we're actually in this spirit and this energy of play,
Mm,
when we're playing,
right.
and that is the magic. Like, that is the high vibration. Everybody wants to be in that energy. Everybody wants to hear that transmission, or if it's a transmission of sadness, like when you're actually in the sadness, or if it's a transmission of some other energy. But the authentic transmission comes from being in that state. And
And
so just one more thing on that. So for people who wanna, if there's a transmission that you want to bring through, it's really about getting a microphone in front of them
at that moment.
at that moment, or creating the conditions where they can drop into that energy, which is what I try and do in my studio, is have people feel relaxed, hang out for a while, and get into that playful state, or that true authentic state, so that we can capture something. And then that's like 50% of the work. Then we just have to, around that transmission, create the rest of the music.
Yeah, I would assume someone can just sit there and have this idea about a song about being born, and it kind of sounds like this, boom, ba-dum, boom, 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 and it's just, and then you're like, oh, you mean like this, and
Yeah.
boom, boom, and then they're like, oh, wow, but it needs like a guitar lick on the end of this, and you're like, oh, you mean like this? Yeah, I could see that would just be really exciting, because you take out all the barrier, to get in to like do your thing, do the thing that has been like floating around in you for the longest time. It's got to feel good to have it out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's super fun.
Yeah.
And it does feel good. I'm just working on an EP for another client. And yeah, she came in with just some lyrics, and then I'm like, okay, how do you want to sing them? What kind of should we do a shaker? Let's get a shaker in here. And then, okay, let's add some guitar and a flute. And then it turned into this really cool electronic dance music, journey song.
Wow.
And it's cool to even just hearing you talk, like thinking back to how we started that project. We didn't start with anything other than the desire to create something magical together. And now we have the thing that's almost done, and it's going to be out soon. So it's cool.
How can people get a hold of Will?
Yeah, you can find me on the internet. Just search Will Sachs, willsachs.com. And I'm opening this ranch that, you've been to visit. So we're opening our musical ranch in the next few months. So people should come out. You want to come out and spend an hour or a day or a week and create something magical. Also, joincreatorscircle.com is the website for Creators Circle.
Wow, very cool. So what's the inspiration behind the ranch? Is that the place where you can play
Yeah.
and get into music?
Yeah. I like I mentioned before, the immersion, I think, is really powerful. I learned that in the business world, actually. It's like if you immerse yourself in something for a few days, you're going to end up with a better solution than if you try and solve a problem slowly over a long period of time. And I found that with music, that when I immerse myself in a project, it's more satisfying. It goes faster. The results are better. So the ranch is an expression of that realization, which is let's create a place where people can come immerse themselves in their own creativity and their own soul expression and have everything that we need studio wise to create, refine, produce, finish. And so
Be together.
be together. Yeah. Connect.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Will.
Thanks, Bobby. Great talking with you.